Christopher Nolan really knocked the ball out of the park with his latest critically acclaimed movie, Oppenheimer. He used no CGI in the film and basically did every scene from scratch. But how far did Nolan go to make Oppenheimer factually correct? Let's judge it for ourselves and find out the 10 things Christopher Nolan got right in the movie. Number 10. Oppenheimer poisoned his tutor. It was the 1920s and Oppenheimer was studying at Cambridge when he came across Patrick Blackett. Patrick was the prominent mind of the time and even went on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics. Oppenheimer was so inspired by this genius that he started working in Patrick's lab, but as time went by, the lab work turned into Oppenheimer's worst nightmare. He was living a miserable life in a small apartment and doing tedious work for Patrick Blackett, which sent Oppenheimer over the edge. It's reported that Oppenheimer had a mental breakdown and he added some life-threatening chemicals to Patrick's apple. But instead of Patrick Blackett, Niels Bohr nearly eats the poisoned apple. But let's be glad he didn't turn into a mad scientist by killing his tutor. Instead, he channeled his brilliance into building the atomic bomb to blow up a whole country. Wait, what? Number 9. Germans weren't nearly as close to making an atom bomb. In 1934, Niels Bohr somehow escaped the Nazi regime and reached Los Alamos. He met Oppenheimer and answered dozens of questions. After this, Oppenheimer realized that Heisenberg, the German physicist trying to make an atomic bomb, made some mistakes, which is why he was way behind the US. The movie accurately depicts this scene and shows how Bohr answers the questions. Oppenheimer instantly feels confident in the movie that Germany isn't ready to make an atomic bomb yet, and they've taken a wrong turn, putting those years behind in their research. This indeed was true, and the movie simplified the fact that Germany did have a nuclear reactor, but it was very small and would never have supported the life-sized atomic bombs of the present day. Number 8. 20,000 lost souls. In one of the scenes in the movie, Oppenheimer says that nearly 20 to 30,000 people could lose their lives if they used the atomic bomb. This might sound like a random number, but indeed is factually right. Alex Wellerstein, a science historian, has recently revealed that it's difficult to confirm if Oppenheimer ever said anything of this sort, but he does state an incident reported by Arthur Campton. Alex said that Arthur, a famous physicist at that time, once said that Oppenheimer talked to him about the nuclear bomb and even showed concern that this could end the lives of over 20,000 people. So Nolan surely did his homework and even got the number right. Number 7. Richard Feynman watching the Trinity test. The montage scene in Oppenheimer where they're testing the atomic bomb is so accurate that they even showed the infamous physicist Feynman watching the test from behind a windshield. In reality, Feynman didn't wear dark glasses because he wanted to be the only human in history to watch the atomic bomb with his own eyes. It's true, guys, because when it comes to creating history, people really go over the edge. So he hid behind a windshield so he could be safe from the radiation of the bomb, and it's depicted accurately in the movie as well. Number 6. Silence after the explosion. The most horrific moment in the movie came when Nolan tried to recreate the Trinity test. There's a long silence in the scene when we see fire, smoke, and fumes. No one knows what it really is, and even Oppenheimer seems dismayed. It was like, did we forget to pay the sound guy? Where's the boom? But then, boom! The explosion was just fashionably late, like a diva making a grand entrance. And Oppenheimer says, "Now I become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
This famous line from the holy book of Hinduism took this scene to a whole new level of thrill and horror. This silent scene was actually shot accurately because Feynman recounted in an interview that there was no sound after the blast for a good minute and a half. And then came the massive bang that took everyone off guard. It seems like Christopher Nolan binge-watched interviews of all the physicists and then made all the scenes as close to reality as possible. Number 5. Oppenheimer never regretted. In the movie, it does seem like Oppenheimer is depressed and overwhelmed after he creates the atomic bomb. However, he never really said in any scene that he actually regrets making the bomb, and even said that he would do it all over again if given a choice. That's what we call a strong commitment to your work. Just stick to your nuclear guns, even if they're meant to blow up the world. This scene is historically accurate because, according to researchers, Oppenheimer once said that an atomic bomb was the only way to stop this war with Japan. But then, everyone suddenly started racing to make the most advanced nuclear weapons, and that's what really sent Oppenheimer over the edge, and that's also depicted perfectly in the movie. Number 4. Spies on the Manhattan Project. Back in the day, a lot of countries spied on the Manhattan Project, but the most prominent spies were from Russia. The US wanted to keep its atomic secrets in close confines, while Russia sent over spies like Theodore Hall, Klaus Fuchs, and Oscar Saborer. In fact, Klaus Fuchs was such a remarkable theoretical physicist that he got first-hand information about the Manhattan Project. In the movie, Klaus Fuchs is played by Christopher Denham, and we see him leaking hydrogen bomb secrets to the authorities in Russia and then getting arrested. Klaus actually had to spend 9 years in US prison for being a Russian spy, and he was later returned to his country. Number 3. Cheating on his wife. Oppenheimer was in a very serious relationship with Jean Tatlock before he got married. Jean was from Stanford and met Oppenheimer in his youth. She even took him to fundraisers where Oppenheimer met so many representatives of the communist theory. Oppenheimer loved Jean dearly and even proposed to her twice, but she didn't want to get married, so Oppenheimer married Puning instead. This tragic story of Jean and Oppenheimer is portrayed flawlessly, and it's even shown how Oppenheimer cheated on his wife while he was working on the Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer actually met Jean and spent the night with her while he was still married, and a few months later, Jean took her own life. Number 2. President Truman calling Oppenheimer a crybaby. After the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer was a little conflicted because he didn't want other countries to use the atomic bomb. So he arranged a meeting at the Oval Office with President Truman so he could tell him how they needed to protect the tech and ban its usage. However, Truman dismissed his concerns by believing Russia would never be able to replicate its technology. So the US president couldn't think much but to call his most esteemed scientist a crybaby. Well, even geniuses need a little validation sometimes. Number 1. Catherine being pregnant with Oppenheimer's baby. Almost all the scenes in the movie about Oppenheimer and Catherine are historically accurate, especially the one with her being pregnant. Catherine met Oppenheimer while she was still married, but she fell in love with the physicist and got pregnant. This was when Catherine's husband gave her a divorce and she got to marry the love of her life, Oppenheimer. But the two weren't the most responsible parents and gave both their kids to their friends or relatives for nursing. These are some of the most impactful scenes of the movie, and Nolan has depicted them with absolute dedication. So, among all these right things, do you think Christopher Nolan got anything wrong in Oppenheimer? This eagerly awaited film, under the direction of visionary Christopher Nolan, explores the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientist responsible for developing the atomic bomb. This movie is expected to set the bar high, as Nolan sought to recreate the visual spectacle of the Trinity test, the first atomic bomb detonation, without relying on CGI. This decision posed significant challenges, but Nolan's commitment to practical effects aims to provide the audience with an authentic and immersive experience. With Nolan's trademark attention to detail and cinematic mastery, we can expect a mind-blowing explosion that will redefine the boundaries of visual storytelling. So it wouldn't be wrong to say that, with Nolan's trademark attention to detail and unparalleled vision, this explosion promises to be a jaw-dropping and thought-provoking spectacle that will not only leave audiences speechless, but it will redefine the boundaries of visual storytelling. I'm KJ. Thanks for joining us today. Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See y'all next time.